This is News Fash, the podcast where fashion and news meet for your weekly dose of insider insights. I'm your host, fashion journalist Moshe Lundstrom-Halbert, and together we're going to stay up to date and open to learn about fashion from a variety of perspectives. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of News Fash Live, where we get to chat. I get to update you on some of the top fashion news stories of the week, and you get to chime in with all your comments, questions, queries, and ongoing remarks about what you'd like me to talk about as well. So diving right in with the theme of this episode, which is I really want to talk about what we're all wearing when we're not in true fashion, which for many of us, myself included, entails, let's just be honest, a lot of workout clothes. I need to know from you right off the bat, what are your thoughts, feelings, and emotions about the Nike X Skims new brand launch? Do you wear Skims? Do you wear Nike? Could you see yourself wearing Nike X Skims? And or I'd also like to know, what are the brands that you're wearing to work out, move, and kind of groove through life, go to the airport, go grocery shopping, all these in-between moments where perhaps you're not as concerned with making a fashion statement, but you want to make a statement of comfort and perhaps even athleticism. So hello to everyone who's joined so far. Hi, Ray. Thank you for joining. Ray often joins us here. He says good evening because this is kind of crazy, but I'm coming to you I couldn't sleep tonight, so I just decided to do this now. I think it's like 2:30 in the morning. It might even be later here in the UK. I don't know. My husband is in the Middle East right now, and I had a late night work meeting on the West Coast. So my time zones are just really kind of non-existent at the moment. They're certainly not tied to where I am in the UK. Anyways, let me know. Oh, Ray says good morning. Yes, basically it is my morning. That's okay. I'll sleep later. It's already Fashion Month, and I'm heading into London tomorrow as well for Fashion Week there. So I'm just like wrapping up a lot of loose ends. But let's talk about Nike and Skims, because that's the main story of the week, unless, you know, Hedi Slimane gets announced at Gucci or Jean Galliano scores a new gig and we hear about that in the upcoming hours, in which case you'll hear from me. But I think it might be Nike and Skims. And at first I was like, a little unmoved by this. Okay says, I feel like the Nike and Skims collab is just going to be a recolored version of something that's already available everywhere. And Nicole Haywood says, Nike X Skims, I'm intrigued but not sold on it yet. Let's really dig into this and think about this, because did you know that Nike X Skims, I think it's called Nike Skims or Skims Nike, correct me if I'm wrong, marks the first time that the world's largest apparel company, which is Nike, has launched a new brand with an outside company. It's the first time. I mean, if you think about it, the Jordan brand did not exist before Nike incubated the Jordan brand, which continues to be huge for them and is one of the most long-standing celebrity endorsement and partnerships in the apparel industry. In fact, it might be the longest one. Perhaps you could argue that like the Stan Smith Adidas of it all predates the Jordan brand and is still continuing and successful, but that's a lot more truncated and specific and not tied to as wide range or wide reaching of a product assortment as the Jordan brand. But so why them? Why Skims and Nike, and why now? Well, if you think about it and if you look at it, Nike's had a lot of upheaval lately. Their CEO resigned last year. who was put in by the previous CEO as kind of their successor, and it didn't really work out because for the past 3 years in a row, Nike has had a decline in their sales. And OK said they're already available everywhere. I don't know if you're referring to Skims or Nike, but Nike is available very widely, and Skims has been very rapidly growing their e-commerce footprint and their sales along the way. But in order to understand why this deal might work, I wanted to look kind of at the whole activewear landscape as a whole and some of the brands that are the biggest players and are on my radar. And again, if you're just joining us now, I'd love to know from you, what are some of the brands that you turn to when it comes to activewear, athleisure, or just lounging about when you need something stretchy, comfy, and with some performance aspects, let's say. So let's look, of course, at Lululemon. Now, Lululemon is obviously a huge business that is doing over $11 billion in sales every year. And we also need to look at Alo, which is a much smaller business. They do about $250 million each year. And then there's another brand that I've heard of them for a while, but I never really knew what they were about, but has recently come onto my radar, and I really, really like what they're all about. And that's Varley. They're British based. So I kind of look at it this way. If Alo is like, in my opinion, the kind of like tasteless and tacky and people who are really drawn to kind of influencer, like invite only culture, Varley seems like it's a lot more like discreet, almost stealth wealth, jet set, but not in a flashy way, and seems to do a very good job when I look at their product assortment, their social media, at like positioning themselves as kind of this nuanced, finding this niche between clothes you can wear to travel and clothes you can wear to work out in, and clothes that look kind of elegant and like elevated takes on loungewear, kind of going right between those 3 points and those 3 needs in their customers' wardrobes. I mean, they're only doing about $75 million or so a year in sales compared to these other players, which are much bigger. But when I look at what they're doing, also there was another really funny moment with Alo that happened this week too, when the Skims Nike deal was announced, where Kim Kardashian, I saw it on that like comments, celebrity comments meme Instagram account. Kim Kardashian basically was trolling her mom, Kris Kardashian, who posted the day of the Nike Skims deal being announced that she posted like a brand deal, like a sponsored post. Kris Kardashian was wearing all Alo. And I thought that was really funny because it just goes to show you that like the Kardashians won't let anything come between them and a paycheck and a brand deal. Nicholas Cade says, I feel like Lululemon has become kids' clothes to me. Alo feels more adult. Yeah, I don't love the feeling of the materials that Alo uses, and the branding. Like it's just, for me, if I see somebody wearing an Alo hat, especially a man, they're especially unacceptable on men. I will literally like divert directions. Like if I see them on the street, I'm like, wow, that's bad luck. It's almost like a black cat. And I go to the other side of the street, or I literally turn around because I don't want to have to cross paths and make eye contact with men that wear Alo hats. That's just how I personally feel about that. There's certain like signifiers for me that it's just too much. And the Alo logo hat is one of them. And then in terms of what you were saying about, Nicholas was saying about Lululemon has become kids' clothes. I think Lululemon, like, whereas Alo is tasteless, Lululemon like doesn't really concern itself with taste, and like the look, the feel, the aesthetic, even like the consumer, it really hasn't changed in decades now. They just kind of do what they do and do it very well, and they continue to acquire customers and maintain the ones they have because of the quality and the fit of their product, even if like the designs and the styles don't feel particularly fashion forward, nor are they as slavishly trendy as I would argue aloe is. But then we also have to talk about Vuori. I've spoken about Vuori before, but they recently are trying to go after this $1 billion valuation. And they kind of also take different bits and pieces of like the Varley more earth toned palette and then like the Lululemon really soft materials, and they just sort of take whatever is working for everyone else and then just like tone it down and make it as like nondescript and bland and chill and Southern California as possible. And I said in a previous episode that I was in this town called Del Mar in Southern California, and I went on a walk in the morning and everyone was walking their dog wearing Vuori with those shoes from Switzerland, those sneakers on running. Like that's what everyone was wearing. That was really the uniform. Which, back to the Skims and Nike of it all, I don't know. If you look at Skims assortment, LA Times says Kim helped them. Skims doesn't do activewear. They are not in that space. And then go look on the Nike website, as I recently did. They are really trying to appeal to and acquire the female consumer in a bigger way. Like men have always come easier to Nike. Women have evaded them in a lot of ways. And if you look at what they're proposing in terms of clothing, it's not hard to see why. Like Pepto-Bismol pink, shorts and sweatshirt sets, or just like really boring basic black. Like nothing feels particularly like urgent, necessary, or really like they're a thought leader in the space the way that they propose to be when it comes to like footwear and frankly their men's assortment. It feels like their women's business is very much an afterthought. Okay said women's Nike shoes were so tacky. Were or are. I haven't purchased, looked at, or considered a Nike shoe in a very, 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 very long time. The last Nike shoe I liked was on my nephew who just turned 1 year old and does not choose his own wardrobe and has the ability to pull anything off. He looked great in the Nike sneakers because they had a kind of soft sole that was good for kids. But otherwise, like I don't think that Nike, from an aesthetic and a fashion standpoint, is where it's at right now, even though they've continued to invest in interesting collabs with like Sacai. Latest one was Jacques Mus. I still don't think it's working to help the brand turn around and remain as relevant as they could be given their size and scale. And they are seeing competitors as a result really nip at their heels. But I think that Skims is going to allow them to like unshackle themselves from being so Nike about everything and just be probably a little bit more sexy, a little bit more streamlined, and pursue a differentiated path. Tommy Swad said, I could see Kim's I could see Kim, you mean Skims, ex Nike, being similar to an accessible James purse with palette and material. That is a very good point. James Purse is a brand that started off as a t-shirt brand in like the early 2000s and has become the brand definitely of like the upper echelon that they'll wear for loungewear, of great cotton, wool, cashmere, and like compact knit basics. Because we all need those pieces in our wardrobe. And frankly, those are the pieces that probably take the most beating. And it's nice to have like nondescript quality options in that category. I also wanted to talk, and this is a bit of a tangent, about like the importance that I think shoes play when it comes to wearing activewear or athleisure out and about. When people are going to see you, see your clothing, and you don't necessarily want it to look like you have just come from the gym or going to the gym. And I think it really is all about, I think you can really throw everything off in a good way with your shoes. So for instance, with leggings, I love a riding boot. Somehow it skews it in a bit more of an equestrian direction, especially if you throw on like a blazer or a coat or something that feels a bit tailored with that. Suddenly you're taking it out of such like a sporty casual context and you're making it feel a little bit more jaunty, a little bit more like posh, a little bit more elevated, but you don't necessarily have to sacrifice comfort. That's a little hack that I employ very often, especially because yeah, I do happen to be in places where it would make sense that I might have just hopped off a horse, and I'm very okay with allowing people to think that that's what I've done, even when I've just been too lazy to put on real clothes. Another one is like cashmere or knits with sneakers, not sweats with sneakers. If you're going to wear sweats, I kind of like that more with a loafer. Same with denim. Like, don't pair denim with sneakers. Pair denim with a dressier shoe. Pair sneakers with more elegant pieces. And I think that you'll allow these items in your wardrobe to transcend like time and place and just look very well-to-do and well-dressed and like casual, but casually elegant. I feel like I'm thinking about this a lot lately, or I keep probably using and overusing that phrase. Maybe it's because I have a bunch of travel coming up and I'm thinking about like, what am I going to wear? What am I going to wear? I actually got this like compact knit kind of cream ecru set from Cause, and then a JW Anderson Uniqlo pullover. And that's going to be my transcontinental travel uniform for the next little bit, I think. I don't know about you, but I'll tend to like hyperfixate on a travel uniform and then wear it again and again and again, and then like never want anything to do with it again. But that's just me. Nino says, even though I don't like Kanye, Adidas after Yeezy is kind of boring. That is another example of a very successful celebrity partnership with an activewear or an athletic behemoth. I don't know why I didn't think to reference that sooner. Thank you. Yeah, because that is another important example. I think bringing in like an outside perspective and creating consumer and market excitement is really needed at these huge brands in order to not kind of get lost in the shuffle or allow other people to much smaller, more agile brands to outdo you. Like, these brands have the budgets and the clout to attract and sign and pay talent of this size and scale. So why not, especially when the stakes are this high? Madeline Newman says, a comparison between Adidas and Nike is really, or Adidas and Nike is really interesting. Sambas have been everywhere. Nike isn't trendy. Yes. And if you think about the Samba, that is not an athletic shoe, really. That's a shoe you can walk in. That's a shoe you can go about your day in, but any true athletic activity and you're changing shoes. What are those shoes that you're changing into? Who is really capturing that side of the market? For me, when I need to wear a shoe where I'm exercising, I'm wearing a Sheiks, or as they say in Japanese, or Asics. That is my go-to brand, and I've become extremely loyal to them when it comes to hiking. I have my hiking Asheiks. I have my Onitsuka Tigers, which are my like version, my equivalent of a Samba, much more flexible. And I personally, I don't wear Adidas anymore based upon the whole Kanye kerfuffle. As a Jewish person, I was extremely not okay with the New York Times expose that exposed how Kanye's anti-Semitism was well known within this German organization, and nothing was done about that because they were making so much money off of it. And I want no part of that. So I'm sticking with my Asheiks obsession. I haven't tried Hoka or On Running, although I've purchased those brands for loved ones who have reported back that they've really liked them. And then APL, I haven't got a new pair of APLs in a while because I still have a bunch of pairs, but that's a workout shoe that I often recommend to people as well because I think it's really nice quality and it's something different. And I like supporting like the smaller brands and independents as opposed to just the big behemoths. And Nino says Skims / Nike threw me off. I could totally see Skims APL. It makes more sense. Yeah. I think APL has done things with Skims. I remember because I've interviewed the founders of APL several times, Ryan and Adam, and they went to school with Robert Kardashian, and they're in with the Kardashians, and I think they've done a bunch of stuff with them, and the Kardashians really helped APL kind of pop off on social media with amazing user-generated content. So that's interesting. Somebody says, real talk, is fashion in general in like a major slump? Well, it's February, so I don't know about you, but real talk between us, I think it's really hard to not be in a major slump and to get excited about what to wear. Personally, I have 3 to 5 hyperfixation outfits that I'll wear when I want to look like a fashion person right now that I basically just rotate because I don't feel like I even have the energy to manifest new ones. Although I am doing that. I'm using probably 2 of my 3 to 5 at London Fashion Week. And then I'm going to Miami and LA and there's other fashion weeks happening and I need to figure out what else I'm wearing. But like even right now, I come to you live wearing cashmere sweatpants from this brand called Say, which used to be based out of Hong Kong. I don't even know if they're still around, but they like made the best cashmere for a while in kind of more casual shapes. And then this turtleneck that I got at Beams in Tokyo. But yeah, at least I'm not in workout clothes, right? Especially because a lot of times, like, I'll put on workout clothes with every intention of working out and then it doesn't happen. And then I'll be in something like this and I'll get stuck on a call for work and I just like end up grabbing my weights and doing some arm exercises. So it's good to have clothing in that category that you can be on Zooms or you can go run errands, but you can also like move in and maybe get your workout in like a snack dosage when you need to. Nino also said, although Nike isn't trendy, that V2K runner is everywhere in New York City. Interesting. I don't even know what that runner looks like. And I used to be so like in the mix with all the sneakers because I used to work at Women's Wear Daily at a publication they had there called Footwear News, all about shoes. Somebody else says, what sites / resources do you recommend for someone like yourself diving into the fashion industry? Certainly Newsfash. And then Women's Wear Daily, Vogue Business can be really helpful as well. My bangs are really bugging me this episode. And then there's a lot of great podcasts. Like I record this as a podcast and my Wi-Fi is not that great right now. But you can go back and listen to it. And there's some other good fashion podcasts too, which I'm not going to use this as a venue to promote them, but you can find them. And then I would say go to the library and take out fashion magazines and watch all the fashion documentaries as well. Okay, I hope that this is... Glenn said, I'm so confused about the Pierre Cardin brand. It could be a major fashion house. Yeah, I think, Glenn, it comes down to like the wrong ownership and licensing agreements that are really complicated to untangle that include things like home linens and homewares and fragrance and accessories, but all owned by different people. And I think when the brand isn't under one umbrella, it's really hard to get it going in the right direction, if that makes sense. Okay. And then something else I really wanted to talk about that was a big fashion news story. But first, Tommy said, Lululemon will say, hey, here's the same pants you own in the ugliest blue color ever, and people buy. Yeah, they love like an ugly blue and like a mauve. I feel like the new it color in leggings to create some excitement for us all, because nobody needs like another pair of leggings at this point. Like I have two drawers that are basically just leggings. Um, is brown and is oxblood. Because frankly, the other colors they're fine, but they're not practical, right? Because they're sweat marks. So we all just, we'll get other colors every now and then, but we all just end up with the grays or the lighter greens or like a pastel. But then we all end up going back to like the black, the navy, and then ooh, the brown. That's the newness. But go check out Varley on Instagram, because I think that the way they style their leggings speaks to like what I was speaking about in terms of how to elevate it. Like if you are going to wear it with a sneaker to and from class, then make it the Miu Miu. Fashion news story that I wanted to leave you with before I need to dash, because it's very, very late here, is a new video I just posted all about the Burberry campaign. So Burberry has a new campaign called It's Always Burberry Weather. It's a series, really. And they have a new one that they just dropped called Burberry in Love. Now, the whole idea with like It's Always Burberry Weather is, I think, really speaks to this like mandate that their new CEO, Joshua Schulman, has instigated, which is all about Burberry returning to its roots as like a performance driven brand in the outerwear space, and being a bit more like elemental, and while also embracing its Britishness. So basically they've come up with this campaign that they just made a short film about that is all inspired by like one of my favorite genres of any form of media that has and will ever exist, and that is the British rom. Shit. And my phone just fell and my light just stopped. And we're back. Wow. I was just going to say that is the British rom-com. And I feel like what just happened was a bit of a British rom-com, because it's the middle of the night here in the UK. And I'm here doing this, talking about fashion because I can't sleep. Welcome to my world. But Burberry in Love stars David Gandy, who, if you don't know him, he's like one of the most successful British supermodels, male models of all time, male models internationally, actually. Jodie Turner-Smith, Nicholas Hoult, and Kate Winslet. And there's an English bulldog in it, which really pulled on my heartstrings. I thought it was interesting because I think what Burberry's maybe leaning into, or consciously or subconsciously trying to do. Somebody just said, can I work on your team or be a team member? Yeah, certainly, because I need it. Like the lighting department just completely failed me right there. I think what's happening at Burberry is maybe instead of like chasing the slavishly cool path, like trying to be cool, I think they've embraced that maybe they're just not in their cool era, and they're not meant to be cool right now. They're meant to be charming. They're meant to make us feel something, and they're meant to be British to the bone and be a convoy for celebrating and also sending up fun elements of British culture, be it the animals, be it the weather, be it the way people dress, be it the banter. Gosh, British people have the best banter. I really get to practice and sharpen my conversational skills when I'm here. When you go back to LA, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes, because sometimes people aren't like the sharpest when it comes to conversation, because people aren't really practicing like the oratory arts there in the same way, right? It's really like about how you look and who you know. That's really important. And in the UK, it really is all about like taking the piss and speaking with a level of humor and eloquence. So that's a really fun environment to be around, I must say. Anyways, this person is saying, no, I'm so serious. I can really add value to my team. Yeah, team is growing. Team is definitely growing. Lonerism says, I miss witty British banter. People in the US take things so literally. Yeah, they take things literally here too, though I will say, like, I've run into a lot of language barriers, even though I'm a native English speaker, and that's what they speak here too. Just when like, there are different phrases and I have to be very careful. Like, I told my decorator that was doing my floors that I wanted them to be natural looking. Like, I wanted the tone of them to be natural. And then he just like didn't seal them. So then I had a party and like somebody spilled just water or like knocked over a vase and it stained. And I was like, And he was like, yeah, I left them natural because she said, I'm natural. I'm like, no. Natural like my hair. Like I want it to look natural, but it's not actually natural. Do you know what I mean? Like we get a little help. We have a little sealant. We have a little deep conditioning. Like we're keeping things in check. That's what I mean. So I do find that like I have to be very explicit here just in case to make sure that people really understand me. But that's okay because it's really all cultural anthropology. And I think back to Burberry, what they're really trying to do is like export that feeling of Britishness that many of us love to see unfold in television programs like Downton Abbey and movies like Sense and Sensibility and rom-coms like Love Actually, and then associate their brand with that and show that the trench coat kind of really does transcend all different eras and styles and like archetype of British person. It suits everyone and it could suit you too, I think is the subliminal messaging that they are going for. It's definitely that time of the day or the night or the morning, but wherever you are, I hope that you were able to derive some value from this. And I will be back soon, and be sure to follow along on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and everywhere else to stay up to date, and wish me luck at London Fashion Week. And that wraps your news fash.
That wraps your news fash. I'm Moshe Lundstrom-Halbert. Stick with me here and over on TikTok to stay up to date on all things fashion. If you have any questions or guest suggestions or feedback, please drop us a line at moshe@newsfashmedia.com.